गजाननं भूतगणाधिपूजितं कपित्थजम्बूफलाहारभक्षितम् उमासुतं शोकविनाशकारणं नमामि विघ्नेश्वरपादपङ्कजम्।
Welcome everyone to today's session of Look East, Act East. Opportunities in Northeast India and India's immediate neighbors, Myanmar and Bhutan. It's a great opportunity today that we are today discussing this initiative and how India is focusing more and more on not only Look East but also Act East. It's our great honor today to have with us our chief guest, Sri Padmanabh Acharya ji, who is the ex-governor of Nagaland, Tripura, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, and Manipur. Not only this, his credentials on nation building will leave us spellbound. He has been an instrument of integration of the Northeast India into mainland India and how more and more people to people contact, enhancement of friendships, enhancement of relations between all the 8 northeastern states and the rest of the country. It's definitely an honor for us, sir, to have you with us today. We would like to begin today with the national anthem of India, Myanmar, and Bhutan. Just thank you everyone for being present for the national anthems of all the 3 countries. It's definitely our pleasure. We welcome you, sir, today, Shri Padmanabhji Acharya, Honorable ex-governor of the states of Northeast. So the floor is yours. We are all eager to listen to you and your experience of all these years and decades and how we can support development of the Northeast region, how we can enhance people-to-people contact, how we can increase bilateral trade, and also how we can integrate India's immediate neighbors into the system. The floor is all yours, sir.
So today is a wonderful namaste to all of you. Today is a wonderful day, 21st day of 21st month of 21st century. Very auspicious and very important day. Friends, at the outset, I want to say Namaste ke aur se namaskar. These two namastes, what did we just wonder? The word namaste has got the first vowel of all the 8 states. Our Northeast India, earlier there were 7 states, now there are 8 states. So Namaste, N-A-M-A-S-T-E, the first N and last E, Northeast. And then first N stands for Nagaland, A for Assam, M for Meghalaya, Manipur, Mizoram, another A for Arunachal, S for Sikkim, T for Tripura, E for East. Namaste ke aur se aap sabko namaskar. Dear Manpreet Singh, President of International Chamber of International Business, panelists, office bearers of ICIB, all highly educated and enlightened panelists, those who have come over to join us today. Other guests, friends, I congratulate ICIB for giving me an opportunity to interact with you, my experiences, and the necessity, the urgent necessity to tie up with Northeast, the default that you have created for years together. As I told you, the Northeast 8 states are international borders. And today, we are highlighting most probably about 2 states only, Bhutan and Myanmar. Anyhow, as in charge of, I was in charge of nearly 5 states. As the governor of Nagaland, different times, different states, I was there. And an ABVP activist, Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, for years together since 1965. After Chinese aggression, I've been interacting with the people in the. So I'm very happy that so many intellectuals and those who are very much interested to do something in the Northeast to tie up and bring the Northeast in tune with the other states' development. So I congratulate all of you. It is more important, as earlier said, look east is only looking east. Now act east. What action can be done? Why we have to go there? What are the possibilities? What are the infrastructure? As in nutshell, I would like to interact with you. Friends, all the 8 states, either there are 1 international border or 2 international borders. The main international countries which are touching these 8 states are Myanmar, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and mighty China. And even today, China has refused to recognize our Arunachal Pradesh as part of India. When I was the governor there, Dalai Lama wanted to visit Arunachal, but we got the notice from China that neither the Dalai Lama nor P.B. Acharya has the visa to enter Arunachal. Modi ji said, Honorable Prime Minister, that don't care for that, go ahead. And the meeting was held. Now, I wanted to just inform you what is the situation in which Arunachal is going on. It is a bigger, geographically bigger state than Assam. So friends, there is a great need. Our greed and default has created the present situation. They are not the creators of the situation. Whatever is happening in Northeast is our default of other states, people and intellectuals. Now, how we can patch up? As our great Prime Minister said, look east and act east, or without Northeast develops, India cannot develop. This is what Modi ji has told us. Now, we have got good relations with Bhutan, good relations with Myanmar, good relations with Bangladesh. And Northeast, Far East countries are also very much interested to interact with our Bharat. So we have got a great opportunity if we develop Northeast India in the proper way, the whole of Far East can come nearer to us for business point of view, development, for economic development, other thing. So from economic development point of view, why we should go there? What are the possibilities in which field we can give help or participate and enrich our nation? So as you know, that whole of Northeast is well known for tea gardens. So flush gardens are there, tea garden in plenty. First oil or mineral oil, petrol was found in Northeast. Coal is in plenty, all the mountains. If you go to Meghalaya, one area, the mountains are full of wonderful coal. You can dig for years and years together, that much coal is there. When I was there earlier in the primitive method, they were digging coal and bringing it by trucks to Guwahati. Per day, nearly 100 trucks, big Punjabi trucks were carrying coal per day. You can carry on and do the best coal is there. Even in Nagaland, where I was the governor, recently they have found out the whole Tuinsang area's mountains are full of coal. There is coal is there, hydro water, everywhere the waterfalls are there. So unless the electricity is in plenty available, no industry can start. But there is no electricity, the materials are there, natural wealth is there. So those who are interested in different way to create energy, it may be wind, it may be solar energy, or any alternative energy also. There is a wonderful opportunity in the Northeast. Wind is available in all hills and mountains very well. And water is also there, waterfalls are there, coal is there, oil is there. So you can develop, you can prepare electricity. So electricity interested, and those are interested in other products connected to electricity, they can come and help the Northeast in creating more and more power for the industries. Now, what are the natural wealth is available? As I said, coal is available. Apart from that, organic vegetables are there. Organic things are there. You go for adrak. It's beautiful. Elaichi, wonderful elaichi. In tons you are getting it. So there are these things are there. And then fresh water is available for all the purposes. Then what is this infrastructure in the sense roadways are the only infrastructure. There are a few airports which are connected, but they are yet to connect all the districts and other things, big things are going on. But at present, roadways are the mainly and railways are the mainly connectivity. Infrastructure, power, how to develop, create wealth. So how you can include always type with universities. In 5 states, I was the governor. As a governor, is the chancellor of all the universities. There are wonderful universities. And the Tezpur University is one of the best universities in the whole of the country. But these universities, knowingly or unknowingly, because of the legacy of the British education system that we inherited, our youths, when they come out of the university, are still not employable. They shy away with the skill. There is no skill in the thing. There's only knowledge is there. But when they come out, they become self-centered people to create wealth or to become rich. That shell we have to break and come out. The new education policy has given a big hand. But now, as you people type with the universities, and if you get groups of youth to create new India, so what Modi ji calls it self-independent, economically India we have to create. So for that purpose, the present universities, if you tie up with them, that is also a good thing. Minerals are in plenty. Cement, coal is there, cement, or the cement you can call whatever minimum requirements are there, everything is available. So friends, you can ask me some questions in which you people are interested, how you can enter and act Northeast, not only look east, act east. It can be done with this beginning of the good, very good performing, this webinar that we have started today. I thank all the people, especially Manpreet Singh, for taking the initiative. We came to Kohima, and I was so impressed that his interest is even he continued, even if I'm not governor with me and with the Nagaland, he has taken up something. So other members also might have come there. I don't know. I don't see them. Just I had contact with Babulal Todi is there, elderly person, Rotary member. He also took interest. Rotary people came, doctors came, many things have happened. You can think how we can develop educational system, skill education, health, so anything you can do for the Northeast is a wonderful thing, is a thing, because we have to. They are just waiting for the people to come and participate in their progress. So let us start and see that Northeast has to be developed. As Modi ji said, unless Northeast develops, India cannot develop. Look east and act east. So these words, I thank you once again and request all the panelists to start the debate. And if any question is required, if you want to ask, you are welcome. Thank you very much. Bharat Mata ki Jai.
Jai. Acharya, thank you so much for such an inspiring talk. I mean, I'm sure everybody has a lot of questions, but we'll quickly take one or two in case, and the rest we will leave for the end. If there are any questions, I request you to please raise your hand, unmute yourself, keep a short question, and we shall be able to take it.
One most important point is that all of you might not be knowing thoroughly that there is so much insurgency even now. So running away from the problem should not be the solution. Take it and then face it and overcome that. So insurgency is there even in a small Nagaland. There are nearly 12, 13 groups. All over the Northeast, nearly 200 groups are there. It is a wonderful place. You can experience what is known as unity and diversity is the peculiarity of India. It's a wonderful area. So you can say insurgency should not shy away from the entering Northeast for business.
Thank you, Acharya. I think a certain bit of insurgency is there in every part of the world. It might be a little detailed somewhere, a little less somewhere. I remember even very much in Mumbai in the 80s, there used to be.
It is so Dawoodi Brahmin Aditi, but Northeast is known for unknownly blamed for the incidents, but it is there. Here also it is a different type, but there also there. But I have to inform you that is there, but you should not shy away. You should face it and do the work.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I request if there are any questions, we can take it up, a question or two. Please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, your question, short and sweet.
Good afternoon. This is Rajiv Bhatia. May I ask a question?
Yes, please, Rajiv ji, go ahead.
So I've been connected with the Northeast for a while now, and we have a foundation also which is working on rural empowerment. But in our experience, I see the unemployment is considerable, and lack of development of small enterprises which can employ people is also a challenge. So are there any thoughts on how this can be addressed on a fairly large scale? Thank you.
The question is not very clear. Unemployment? Hello?
Yes, I'll repeat the question.
Yeah.
I find that there is considerable unemployment in the Northeast and lack of development of small enterprises. This is a challenge. So how should this be addressed so that there may be numerous small enterprises set up and employment created as a result of this? Thank you.
There is a great scope for small industries to come, especially they are all dependent for raw material for their handloom industry. Every house, every tribal, there is a handloom view. They have got their identity. So handloom industries, you can help, color. You don't have colors. They have to get it from Punjab or something. Yarn, they have to get it from outside. So if there is no cooperative system, that handloom and handicraft industry is the biggest industry, and people are engaged themselves in that. But if you create a market for that, Manpreet knows, if you create a market here in big cities, because they are very special things, each thing is not a mass production. little bit cost-wise higher, how we can create market, an international market that can upload. And unemployment, as you say, it is all over the country. It is not much there. The universities are wonderful universities. They're coming out. They're all fan out all over the country. Even in Mumbai, there may be not less than 5,000 Northeast people working. And reservation is there for the tribals everywhere in every industry. So big population, tribal states are there. Mizoram, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Arunachal is fully tribal and they are known as tribal states. And all the young people who get graduation, they have got reservation and they get employment. So unemployment of the Northeast tribals compared to the mainland other graduates lesser. But they have no hope. They want to come up. They are very capable. They are not second-class citizens. They are equally what we are. So what you have industry in your thing, how it can go, I can help you. That is the question if you ask me. I am in this industry, can I enter and do what way? That is the thing. I don't know the participant who are interested in which way, because I have joined today to act. That is the immediate follow-up of should be act, not here only clap and go. I will be disappointed and will be pained to know that. And Manpreet will not do that. He has not. So he has involved all of you. Now let us start what I can do, what we can do. Unemployment, other challenges are there. But if you have something to give to the Northeast, I will tell you how to do it without any.
Acharya ji, Mrs. Sachdev from Noida. And we wanted to take up a sports industry over there. I think we need your help, especially football. Football industry.
Football.
Yeah.
Sports. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
In Mizoram, there are two gentlemen who have got the full team in their control, financing them. And they have, I think they are on the top level of Indian teams also. So there are people who are very interested in football because football requires smaller ground. Cricket requires a bigger ground. Cricket is not that in a tribal area, hilly area, except Assam. So if you are a football, I will introduce you to the Mizoram gentleman who is on the top of football industry. But if you are manufacturing football or is allied things, that also will help them.
Sir.
And you, yeah, sure.
I think Manpreet knows my background. I think I'll take Manpreet's help. I think Manpreet, you should come forward and.
You can come to, as you are introducing, you can come directly to me. Manpreet is a good friend of mine.
Okay, sir.
Whoever panelist, my number is there. You can ring up. You are welcome. I'm just waiting.
Sir, we will join Manpreet and surely knock your door for a good opportunity I foresee.
No, Manpreet is wonderful. I just wanted to see that directly you will be available to contact me. That is the only thing.
Thank you, sir. Manpreet, I think you can give me assurance that I'll join you.
Maninderji, don't worry. Acharya ji is very much approachable, easily approachable to all of us, and my presence is not really necessary.
Send me the address.
Your presence is required. You are the motivator.
Yes, you are the bridge between. You see, I take you as a bridge.
You are the motivator. He is not a bridge. He is the motivator. You can come directly to me.
This young chap.
The credit goes to Manpreet. Okay, there is no argument.
Okay, move forward. Let's go to the last question. Dipankar ji, I think you.
Good afternoon, Padmanabhan sir. Okay.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Can we have Dipankar ji first, please? Dipankar.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. This is Dipankar from Kolkata.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Sir, what is the scope of healthcare sector in the Northeast?
Which industry?
Hello?
Which industry you said?
Sir, healthcare industry or hospital, new hospitals. What are the scope of healthcare sector and new hospitals in the Northeast?
Wonderful. For tourism, we have one Nagaland, one state is more beautiful than any other country. Every state has a lot of things. You go to Manipur. Manipur is the most beautiful place.
Okay.
You have to just go and see the things, and you have a good scope. Good hotels are coming up in Manipur. There is a good hotel excellency. But in smaller states, there is a great scope for tourism and hospitality industry.
So, sir, if you allow me, then I can I contact you, sir, if you allow me?
Yeah, you can send an email to us. We'll connect all of y'all directly. You can send it to the chamber. We'll be happy to.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Yeah. Can we take rest of
Manpreet
the
sir.
questions after the panel discussion, if everybody doesn't mind?
Some other gentleman wanted to
Yeah,
talk.
Deepak ji, can you take it?
Yeah, Padmanabhan sir, good afternoon. Good afternoon, all the members here. Padmanabhan sir, I am from Assam itself, and
Okay.
I'm a property consultant by profession, and I had been traveling the entire Northeast in this real estate industry. So even we are willing to look Northeast on the top level of the country's chart, but since this retail and the land policies basically, these are a hindrance and challenge, and the cooperation from the localites of the other states, they are not that friendly, so that we are not able to bring these retailers or all these big brands, like most of them have come down, but they are not feeling that comfortable working in these zones. So can we work on that also, sir, that we can have some ease of working in these areas, so that as these retailers or commercial aspects grows, the job opportunities and business will grow in these areas?
Young men, whatever the conditions are there, we can't change. Take up the challenge and enter. There is an opportunity. This is a great thrill. Go and take up the challenges and do this law is there, that law is there. Everywhere it is the case. This gunda is there, that gunda is there. Don't worry about it. What you can offer, where you have got some skill, knowledge, go and share with them. Because it is high time now. Everybody feel that nothing is coming. Even in independence movement, wonderful participation by the people. The Guwahati airport is named after whom? Bardolai?
Gopinath Bordolai.
What a contribution he has done. Otherwise, whole of Northeast would have gone. So people don't remember. So you know that some. So forget about what is not happening. But there are so many things which are conducive and well to do. Let us enter. Please enter. As a governor, I can help you in 5 states, all the states. Come on.
Manpreet ji, may I say something?
Yes, Bawalai. Take the permission from Manpreet.
That's why I take it
Last
from
question. Last question.
Kohima has a lot of potential for a hospital, and there are lots of patients. We have seen that. We have taken a medical team there, and in 2 days we examined 2,000 patients. So Kohima will be the best place for you to start with, and there are other places also where you can start a hospital.
Babalaji, you had been to Nagaland. There is a saying in English: the strength of the chain lies in the weakest link. So which is the weakest link from health point of view? Mon district, border to Myanmar. There somebody should go and start a hospital. People will salute you, respect you like God. There is necessity, but in which industry you are concerned and you have got some knowledge, you tell me, I will take you to the rarest place where it is most necessary. Wherever it is available in small or big way, need not go. The things should spread out, spread out. Go to Mon, go to the tribal area. Christian community is doing, but we the people have failed to do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. It's been a great interactive session. Acharya, thank you so much. We request you to please stay back. We will have a short.
Sunit Madhav had come.
Puranik, yeah. I'm Sunil Madhav Puranik. I am in Mumbai, and I am into e-learning for engineering colleges, and I have clients as Assam Engineering College and NERIST in Arunachal Pradesh. But I am not able to penetrate more in the Northeast, because this e-learning is for GATE exam, and I want to give this software to all engineering colleges in Assam and in Northeast. How do I go about it? Next stage is, of course, I will be doing e-learning for schools as well. Could you please guide me? How do I go? Because if it is done from the top, see, there are a lot of funds coming in Northeast for various things, even education funds. So how do I will approach, if an order like this from the top is given, then things could be easier rather than going one by one.
So, Honorable Jitendra Singh, who was to come to this function, participate in that, he is in charge in the central government, union government, for the development of Northeast. So whatever field you want to enter, you can enter directly, meet him, send a letter, and try to do the things. Jitendra Singh, Professor Jitendra Singh.
Okay. His contact details are
in a small way. If you have got I can meet me or interact with me, I'll also tell you how to link, on whom to meet, how to do things.
Yeah. Especially the engineering colleges and the schools.
Yeah.
For e-learning.
Thank you, Pranit. Thank you so much. Acharya, thank you so much. I request you to please be with us. We will pick up this question and answer after a few minutes again. We are joined today by an eminent panel. The panel is an expert in its own way. We are having 4 panelists today. One is Sri Sunil Sethi, who is the CEO, Adani Myanmar. Mr. Priyanshu Goyalji, he is a country head Myanmar for Marico. And Mr. Vinod Parakar, he is the director of India ASEAN Business Association. And we have Mr. Lorembam Bikram. He is the IS officer, director of industries, government of Manipur. Sunil Sethi, I request you to please open the session on the panel discussion on the opportunities in Myanmar and your experience that has been there, heading such an amazing company that has been there, and your experience and what you would suggest in this scenario about India and Myanmar.
Thank you, Manpreet. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and good afternoon to everyone. Namaskar, and it was very nice hearing Mr. Padmanabhan also and getting all his inputs about Northeast. I have been in Myanmar for about 8 years now, and I was first heading India's largest conglomerate, Tata, for about 5 years. I opened the office for the whole Tata group here. And for the last 3 years, of course, I'm representing the Adani group. And we are probably one of the largest private sector company to make an investment. We are building a container terminal in Myanmar. To me, in my past 8 years, I find Myanmar to be a country with tremendous potential. It has a population of about 52 million, so it's not very small like Laos or Cambodia. Nearly the same landmass, even bigger than Thailand, and the population also nearly the same as Thailand. So in terms of certain macro numbers, because I'm seeing a lot of participants from India, I'm not sure if all of you are aware of Myanmar's macroeconomic numbers. But just to give you a sense, it's a $70 billion economy today. And there was a report which was done by McKinsey in 2013 when I just came to this country, which predicted that by 2030, this will become a $200 billion economy. Having stayed in this country for 7-8 years, my own sense is that this will at least become upwards of 250 billion. And Northeast India shares a 1600 kilometer border with Myanmar. We are the closest. For India to get into Southeast Asia, into ASEAN, the first country is Myanmar. And we have a 1600 kilometer border that we share with Myanmar and Northeast. So there is a huge potential. Just to give you another statistic so that you get to know where we stand today in terms of trade. Overall, Myanmar's EXIM, which is export and import, is around approximately $32 billion, which is not very big, very, very small. 50% is imports and 50% is exports. Of this 32 billion, 10 billion is border trade, which today is, of course, not a very small number. But what is surprising is that most of it is between China and Thailand. So upwards of $4 billion of trade happens each with Thailand and with China, whereas our trade through the Northeast, through Tamil More border, is hardly, I think it was max at 90 million. So you can imagine, such a big country with a $1.3 billion, 1.3 billion population, the trade is only 90 million, whereas only a small Yunnan province of China does $4 to $5 billion of border trade with Myanmar. So to me, there are huge opportunities, but of course, for the first time, I also heard the Indian side and I also understand limitations of Northeast. I think a lot of speakers mentioned about land issues, etc., etc. That notwithstanding, I think there is still a huge potential and huge areas where we can work together. To me, there are broadly three buckets where I think we should focus on. The first is SMEs. So whatever I know that in Northeast, and there have been a lot of delegations in my 7-8 years that I've been in Myanmar, and incidentally, I'm also the president of the India-Myanmar Chamber of Commerce. We did not have such a body in Myanmar. It's only 3 years back that we set up such a professional Chamber of Commerce. And we'll be very happy to help connect our friends from Northeast with local partners in Myanmar. Because I think that's another thing a lot of people struggle with, is to find the right contacts in Myanmar. But I can tell you that we have a fantastic database with us. We have about 150 members in our chamber. So whatever be your area of interest, we'll be able to connect you with the right people in Myanmar, which will help you do business. So talking of the 3 buckets that I was saying, the first is we have to see how to increase this trade from 90 million to at least, $1 billion. That, Manpreet, should be something that we should take as a tangible, target for ourselves to do. Only then we will be doing Act East. Otherwise, we'll just keep looking and we'll find that trade keeps happening between China and Myanmar and Thailand and Myanmar, and we guys just keep sitting and talking. So let's make a plan how to make this border trade to at least go up to $1 billion from a current level of 90 million, say in the next 2 to 2.5 years. How can we do it? Let us first identify SMEs as the bottom of the pyramid, so to speak, and see states like Chin State, Sagaing, Kachin, and including Mandalay, and I would say even Shan are, these are the upper parts of Myanmar. We have to see how produce, whether it is agro, Governor also spoke of some of the products, which Northeast produces. You have a similar profile here. You have mangoes, you have watermelons, etc., which are grown you have cattle, you have so many things which beans and pulses, rice, upper part of Myanmar produces all this. So we have to really see how we can do cross trade. Similarly, what is it that Northeastern states can export? And put down numbers and put down certain targets, that how do we go about building an SME business to at least $1 billion. To me, that is one thing that we should action, and there should be a small task force, and the chamber is very happy to support you with that. Similarly, we should have some people on Northeast from representing all the states who tell us what are the main products and what is it that we can export. Of course, coupled with this will be very important is to see how do we de-bottleneck some of the problems that we face, that importers and exporters face at the Tamil border today. It's not run as efficiently as Miyawadi border or the border at China. So that's something that we need to do, and that's where we'll probably need help of Delhi to help us do that. I know that our embassy is also doing a lot there, but I think we still haven't been able to put our house in order there. So that is something that is required. Second is, I feel in big cities, whether it is Guwahati or Aizawl or Imphal, we should have big branded Indian companies which sell or which already distribute their products to Northeast, should also look at these 5-6 upper Myanmar states as their territory. And here, look at things like construction equipment, for example. Kachin, which is very close, which is, part of northern part of Myanmar, has the largest jade mining in the world. So the amount of construction equipment that they need is huge. So is it possible for a distributor sitting in, say, for Escorts or for Mahindras or whatever, out of Guwahati or out of Imphal or wherever, to also look at Kachin as one of his, 9th state or 9th territory, and then build a strategy around that? So here there can be huge scope. So I'm naming a few industrial products like, say, construction equipment, automobiles. There's a huge demand. There is demand for LPG in the upper part of Myanmar. There is demand for fuel, whether it is gasoline or diesel. And I know Numaligarh refinery did supply some material to Northeast, but we have to really scale this up and see how we can do this. This is the second bucket. And the third is around, I think, human skills and softer things. So things like IT. The other day we were having a seminar, and I was talking to the director of IIT Guwahati, very, very passionate gentleman. And, northern part of Myanmar, and for that matter, whole Myanmar needs a lot of upgradation of soft skills. We've already set up an IT institute in Mandalay, but I think more such work can be done. And I was seeing a few comments in the box also around medical tourism. Today, the people from Myanmar go to Singapore or to Bangkok to get their medical treatment done, which is very, very expensive. Can we look at doing something here locally? Or as you were mentioning, can we have some hospitals in well-connected places, and then by air connectivity from Mandalay, if we have, we can get a lot of traffic, because people spend a lot of dollars spending money in Bangkok and in Singapore. Northeast can be an alternate if we have good medical facilities. So such like things. And to top it off, I will conclude by saying that there are two big projects that also we need a G2G intervention very fast to, overall help the trade go up. One is to expedite the trilateral highway, which is connecting Northeast to Thailand, to Myanmar to Thailand. I think we are still work in progress there. That is something which I remember I was talking to a few ambassadors here, where our Honorable Prime Minister himself used to monitor this project once in 6 months directly with the ambassadors. But I think we've been going a bit slow on that. We should see how we can expedite that, because that will give us a fantastic connectivity. And the second is the Kaladan multimodal project, where again, the government of India, it's one of its largest projects for about $400–500 million has been spent, but we are still struggling because of certain insurgency issues, both in Rakhine state of Myanmar, as well as the governor was mentioning, problems that we faced in Northeast. So we need to circumvent this, and at a G2G level see how we can complete this multimodal project so that Sitwe starts getting far more cargo than what it is getting today. And we are able to, sort of connect the whole Northeast beautifully with the upper part of Myanmar, as well as with Bangladesh and Kolkata, Haldia, Paradeep, etc. So these are some of my thoughts, Manpreet, on what I feel we need to do. I think the bottom line is we need to get down and action a few of these 4 or 5 points that I've highlighted, to really see how we can increase trade and investment between our two countries. But opportunities are huge, and we are there as part of India-Myanmar Chamber of Commerce to support all our friends in India, whoever want to invest in Myanmar. Thank you.
Sunilji, thank you so much. I mean, your support has definitely been one of the most important ones when it comes to India and Myanmar trade. And India-Myanmar Chamber of Commerce and your leadership as president has definitely helped a lot. Your experience of, I think, more than a decade, I would say, is definitely valuable. We will definitely take up on your offer on increasing the trade to $1 billion. It's not such a difficult task if we are very focused and we know where to hit the nail. And as you rightly said, it is the small and medium industries. If they take on the mantle, that can be definitely easily achieved. Moreh border, you clearly mentioned, is highly underutilized, and we are also pushing for development of lot of warehouses, construction, and sites where cold storages, where this the border can actually be utilized to at least 50% of its potential in the next 1 year. So we will be discussing with you offline on this part too. Please be around. We will be coming back to you. Let me move on to our next panelist now, Shri Priyanshu Goelji. He's the country head, Myanmar Marico Limited. Priyanshu ji, welcome to today's session. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks, Manpreet, and thanks, Mr. Sunil, for summing up the entire discussion perfectly. Like Mr. Sunil, I also came to Myanmar in 2014 early. I've been here around now 7 years, and it's been an amazing journey, and we have seen the development of Myanmar going through. And I think as both gentlemen talked about Myanmar and the India-Myanmar border issues and all that. But I think overall, I see a lot of improvement in last 6-7 years. The look east and act east policy somewhere has worked. If you see, there have been a lot of good work happened in this sector. I see a lot of improvement possible, as Mr. Sunil also emphasized. I think I see 8 strategies of investment. I will look from India to Myanmar. Myanmar is one of the locations where it's a greenfield area today in Southeast Asia. I think this is one of the countries, as Mr. Sunil talked about, $70 billion GDP, and it will go up to $250 to $300 billion. So I think the first thing, and as an Indian company, can look forward to invest in Myanmar is into manufacturing sector. Manufacturing as of today is pretty weak in Myanmar. I think especially on agro-based industry. agricultural equipments are scarcity in Myanmar. Even the border trade is very poor. So if somebody comes in from India, put up a factory, there's a huge opportunity. It's a agro based economy. So there is huge opportunity in Myanmar today. Second, the industry I represent is FMCG. Marico is the producer of parachute coconut hair oil. We earlier used to import from India, then we now manufacture in Vietnam. And there is a huge opportunity in FMCG sector in Myanmar. Most of the products still are imported from Thailand, China, and Singapore, and even Korea. India has a very small share of it. Indian FMCG companies can actually bring in their products both from import side direction, or put up some factories like be it soap, detergent factories, or even some developed industries in FMCG area. Today, Myanmar consumer is having a cycle of learning, and also their habits are changing. And as marketers are developing those habits, these habits will slowly become mature.
Priyanshuji, if I can disturb you, sir, your volume is too low. There is in the chat box also, others are not able to listen to it. Sorry for disturbing, sir, but I think if you can somehow increase the volume. Thank you, sir.
Is it better now?
Much better, sir.
Much better.
Sorry for interruption, sir.
So thank you. So I was talking about FMCG. I think consumer habits are changing, evolving in Myanmar today. So if we as Indian brands and manufacturers come to Myanmar, develop something, there is a huge potential. There is a huge opportunity in Myanmar today. If I talk about our own business, just to give it, 7 years back, we used to do 250 tons of parachute a year in Myanmar. And today we do more than 1500 tons. So it's like, the country, as Mr. Sunil talked about, it's huge potential and it's growing very fast. There is an opportunity. If we take it up, then we can build this for future. The third biggest sector I see and the opportunity is pharmaceuticals. Most of the pharmaceutical brands in Myanmar are all through, it comes from India. Now, there is an opportunity to create certain manufacturing facilities in Myanmar because most of the medicines in Myanmar today are all imported. So Indian manufacturers have a lot of expertise. India is the world's like pharmaceutical capital. So I think somewhere, if we build certain products in Myanmar, it will be a great opportunity for Indian companies as well to establish the market. I think the fourth is on India's cotton yarn. So Myanmar imports most of the India's cotton yarn and then make apparels and fabric and sell it to Japan and other European markets. So, and there is a huge opportunity. There's a huge employment generation capability in this sector, textile sector. If Indian companies come in, they can create a full value chain through it and then can export the products to developed countries and also take advantage of export duty benefits from Myanmar to European countries. So the textile sector, the India's cotton yarns opportunity is big that can be taken into. Then natural resources in terms of energy and even till today, Myanmar has not more than 40% electrification capability. So there is a lot of opportunity in generating that electrification. The World Bank and the Myanmar government has a target to reach to maximum population by 2030. So there is an opportunity in that, especially from government angle. One thing I believe on border, as Mr. Sunil was also talking about, the border trade is not well managed. And most of it today is informal border trade, which is not accounted in both the markets. Both India and Myanmar is losing out on the revenues, on custom duty and everything because of border trade being very informal. I think somewhere on that area, we can have better banking and custom capabilities and setups. This is more from a regulation angle. And we can also create border hearts where like every week, it can help us in more cultural exchange and better understanding in the market. The last point I want to mention is the quantitative restrictions India has put in 2017 on beans and pulses import from Myanmar. I think there is a very great advantage for both Myanmar farmers and also from India in terms of adverse situations. If Myanmar and India sign a G2G government to government MOU on this, where we can have a fixed quantity mentioned every year as a purchase. We guarantee Myanmar government for a fixed quantity MOU on beans and pulses. It can save us a lot of money. It can also save us a lot of arbitrage. And there is also, in terms of similar agriculture cycle, we have sugar, which is exported from India to Myanmar. So if government to government intervention happen and we can sign an MOU, we can even look at barter system. If it goes well, we can import beans and pulses from Myanmar, government to government, and export sugar through barter system. That will save a lot of foreign reserves as well for both the countries. Thanks.
Thank you, Priyanshu. I think you have highlighted some of the issues that are bottlenecks, and if these are sorted, I think the trade can easily grow exponentially. When it comes to, see, there are infrastructure issues within the country also, and of course, the same is the situation in Myanmar near the borders. Because of the terrain, it is not very easy to develop the infrastructure so well, so fast. But definitely, it's happening. The government of India has been doing very well, and things are changing for the better. And I'll be coming back to you with a few questions from the people. Meanwhile, we would like to move on to our next panelist and take his views on how this relation is impacting the trade between India and ASEAN region as such. The opportunities that we have, we are connected to such a huge ASEAN region through our Northeast region, and how we can enhance that. Shri Vinod Palkarji, welcome, sir, Director of IABA. It's great to have you with us today. Can you highlight on these issues, sir? It will be great to listen to your views.
Thank you, Honorable Acharya ji and Chamber of Commerce President Manjeet Singh ji and Sunil ji and Goel ji from Myanmar. I had an opportunity to interact with them. Friends, let me share with you. I am in the Southeast Asia for more than 15 years. I was, a part of a Government of India mission to set up an entrepreneurship institute and develop interaction of SMEs in Southeast Asia, particularly CLM regions. And as a part of that initiative, I was in Myanmar also. I spent about 4 years in Myanmar as a part of that initiative. And then since last 10 years, I'm interacting with business community in private sector in Myanmar as and when required. I see, the Myanmar has a great potential in terms of, there are a lot of connections with India, the Indian origin population is there. And if we cater their needs, possibly we have a great market. My interaction with Myanmar is for my intervention to set up the Entrepreneurship Institute and other projects of Government of India during my tenure in 2010 to 13. And then I'm working with very closely with local business associations. And we continuously interact, and I see there is a large potential for trade, particularly. Manufacturing sector, Piyush already talked to you. No doubt, manufacturing sector will provide a large scope for joint ventures in Myanmar and build things. But let me, give my few observations. Very few people, they know India as a tourism place, but they are not aware of the Indian capabilities to supply the products, whether it's the industrial products or the consumer products. You hardly see Indian products. They see the Thai products and Chinese products, even the Korean products and European products. So we have to enhance our visibility in that region. When we talk to the people, and as a part of my initiative, a few of the business people, I brought them in Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Delhi, and other places. They say we are not aware of these products and the Indian capabilities. So
we need some systematic efforts to promote Indian product in that part. If I have to talk sector-wise, because many of the border and other issues being discussed, I will not discuss about the issues and problems. I see everything as an opportunity. Problems are there, the business class people overcome the problems usually. And agriculture sector, I can clearly tell you, when I move in a market, particularly in the interior part of the Myanmar, I see the people are using a biofertilizers. And India, we have a very good biofertilizers, but they are not available in Myanmar market. Let us see the cost difference, If you talk about neem seed oil, which is sold in India for less than 200 rupees a kilo. And the cost of Myanmar for the similar product is about $7 to $8 per liter. And we can explore more, but I just give a couple of examples. So biofertilizers as well as the equipments in agriculture sector. Because, I see when I travel in India for paddy sowing and all, a lot of mechanization is done in India. But we are not marketing that mechanization in our neighboring countries. We have to take initiative, and then we can go into a value chain by promoting agro-processing industry, particularly dal mill, oil mills, rice mills. And in India, we have a variety of models, right from a mini rice mill to a large rice mill. So that trade is possible. Then I see, domestic products, all sort of, products, right from razors to toothpaste. Everything has a good market, and awareness is there, but the products are not available. The power sector, as Piyush ji told, 40% only electrification is done, 60% is still open. So right from the cabling, electrical accessories to motors, pump and all, that sector is available. But the basic accessories and allied product could be a good trade opportunities. In automobile also, I see, apart from spare parts, many people are doing some spare part business, but the batteries is a huge market. And I see in India, there are a good number of people, they make a very good batteries. I can also see, the opportunities for tourism, because the Myanmar received more than 6 to 7 million tourists every year. And when I visit the tourism places, they don't see much of the product to sell. So handicraft from Northeast can acquire a very good market in Myanmar, and we can bring the handicrafts from there. Recently, I'm working with Ethnic and Tribal Association of Myanmar, and we are trying to build, capacity building and skill development of the tribals, so that their capabilities to produce the handicrafts will go up with a design intervention. But this is one sector, where a lot of trade possibilities I see, and the products are available. They are of a good quality, good designs, which has a very good, the market in India, and the price difference is also very lucrative. If you bring that handicrafts in Indian market, particularly Mumbai and Delhi, the people will appreciate. The other things, we as it was talk about the healthcare sector, pharmaceutical, no doubt India is known for the medicines, and we are supplying a lot, but all paramedical area where the hospital equipments and biomedical equipments, that market is still open for Indians. And I think, yes, we need to look into that market. And when I talk to the people, even from syringes and all, they ask for it, but unfortunately, we are not able to link that market. And yes, no doubt the BP apparatus and all other things, there is a good scope. Garment and textile is another area where we can find out a lot of possibility for collaborating, and we can explore trade opportunities in Myanmar. Last 4 years, I am operating as an Indo-ASEAN business advisory firm, where we are promoting the Indian entrepreneurs in ASEAN countries, particularly in CLMV, and we have successfully, helped some of the good projects in Myanmar, Vietnam, and Laos. So I will be very happy to help Indian community to grow in that part of the world. I can connect them with a local entrepreneurs. And being a part of a startup initiative in Myanmar, I know small entrepreneurs, they look for a small technology transfer, they are not looking for a great technology, right? They are looking for small thing. Even a good ball pen manufacturers can have a strategic partner in Myanmar. So a trade of what I say, a small technology can be undertaken with the enterprising people from India. So with this, I thank you and look for more interaction if you are promoting the products in that part. So thank you.
Vinodji, thank you so much. You mentioned about tourism and you mentioned about opportunity. I remember during my last trip to the Northeast, there were some business people accompanying me, and we were traveling. One of them said, "Arey, यहाँ क्या होगा? यहाँ तो सड़क भी नहीं है." The other person immediately said, "Arey, very good. Let's start adventure tourism." So that is, when you look at positives, you really find something. And I'm sure there are a lot of opportunities available, and especially when it comes to such a large border. Sunil ji also mentioned, the border is 1600 kilometers between Myanmar and Northeast. It's a huge opportunity. I mean, imagine the small states of Northeast, if they start manufacturing even small products, the possibilities are just immense. The growth possibilities are limitless. So it is something that we should all take cues from. So talking about cues, today we have the representation from government of Manipur, and we have himself, the Director of Industries, Shri Lorimbam Bikramji, IAS. Welcome, sir. Bikramji, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Manpreetji. First of all, a very good afternoon to everyone, and my warmest regards to Sri P. Acharya ji, Honorable Ex-Governor, Nagaland, Tripura, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, and Manipur. So with your permission, I would like to share a small PPT with you, Manpreet ji.
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Actually, let me start from the pictures. I was thinking of presenting it from top to bottom, but let me start from the bottom. This is the integrated check post at More. The integrated check post has facilities including passenger terminal building, the cargo building, warehouse building, cold storage, then electrical substation, etc. Next. And this is also some of the views of the integrated check post. Now, the basic problem with the integrated check post is that in the past few years, though formal trade has been restored in 2015 between India and Myanmar, the volume of formal trade is very low. It is the informal trade which dominates. So we really need to troubleshoot why. When we are having such state-of-art facilities in the ICP More, the traders are not utilizing the facilities. So one of the complaints that the entrepreneurs have been making to us is that the import duty from Myanmar on most of the items are very high. So formal trade becomes non-feasible compared to the informal trade. So in addition to that, there are so many issues in the India-Myanmar border trade, which I will highlight later on. I think we can go to the next slide. Actually, this is the industrial estates in Manipur. Presently, we are operating 7 industrial estates of 10 acres each, and another 2 industrial estates are coming up. And most of the bigger entrepreneurs are operating from the industrial estates, because the industrial estates gives the basic infrastructures from electricity to water supply, and it also gives a conducive environment to the entrepreneurs, in the sense that, as our honorable governor has already, ex-governor has already spoken about the law and order situation. So the industrial estate gives them a conducive environment to function. There are securities are given to the industrial estates, so the entrepreneurs can come, not only the local entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs from the other states of the country can come and function from within the industrial estates. Next. And these are some of the snapshots of the industrial estates. We have entrepreneurs producing cosmetics. We have entrepreneurs producing plastics products. So the plastic industry is, I think, a bit advanced in Manipur. So we can think of developing the toy industry in Manipur. And we have the tire retreating, and of course the embroidery, which is one of the main strengths of the state, handloom and handicrafts. And we also have entrepreneurs taking up new ventures like manufacturing of transformers and this thing, repairing of transformers. So why I have included this particular picture is that I was also, I had taken part in the power sector reforms in Manipur in 2014. So at that point of time, like we faced lots of issues. And one of the biggest issue was we didn't have proper workshops for repairing the transformers. So with the entrepreneurs coming in, I think that problem will be resolved over a period of time. Next. And these are some other pictures from the units at the industrial estates. One of the units is manufacturing medical equipment, and one of the unit is manufacturing these briquettes, renewable energy, and we also have dairy packaging units in the industrial estates. Next slide. And this is one of our biggest food park. There is a unit called Likla Bakery. This is one of the leading bakery in the state, and this is functioning from inside the industrial estate because of the, as I earlier said, because of the infrastructure facilities that are given to them from within the industrial estates. So I would like to go to the first slide, where I would like to focus on some specific sectors, very, very specific sectors where investment can come in to Manipur in particular. So we have the tourism sector. Manipur has tremendous potential in tourism sector, and we have the largest fresh water lake in the entire Northeast India, the Loktak Lake. So the lake presents itself an abundant opportunity for investment. So the state government has taken up an ecotourism project with estimated cost of rupees 1,350 crores. So this will include construction of the lakefront view, resort with state-of-art facilities, golf course, and even water waste management. And the second sector is the information technology. Manipur is endowed with well-educated human resource. Like the literacy rate is very high. The state government is in the process of developing a Manipur IT SEZ with development area of 13.6 lakh square feet. So the IT-SEZ will comprise of processing area and non-processing area. The project cost is rupees 950 crores. The government will bear 500 crores, and the remaining 450 crores we are expecting investment from private investors. So the private investors are very, very welcome to invest in this project, and the state government is ready to provide all kinds of support to the private investors. So the project is expected to add over 4,600 crores to the GDP of the state, with trickle-down effects of rupees 9,200 crores. And it will generate direct employment of 11,000 plus and indirect employment of 33,000 plus. So this is a big project. If you take it as a single project, that also in a state like Manipur, in a small state like Manipur, where 10% of the area is valley and 90% is hills. So this is one of the flagship projects that the state government is taking up. Next, please. Handloom and handicrafts, I don't need to elaborate because Manipur has the second largest number of handloom clusters in the entire country, and we have a separate Manipur textile and handloom policy to encourage private investment. The bamboo sector, actually 41.67% of the total geographical area of the state is covered with bamboo. We have 20 different varieties of bamboo, so we can think of establishing bamboo parks. We can think of extraction of ethanol from bamboo, processing units for bamboo shoots. I think the bamboo shoots are in very high demand in the Asian region, particularly in Thailand. And we can also set up bamboo chipping plants. And the state government has already framed a bamboo policy, which will be notified shortly. And this will be in favor of the investors. As regards the tea and rubber plantation, the state government is in the process of reviving the Manipur tea estate at Jiribam, which will cover an area of 1,062 acres. The estimated cost of the revival is 49.49 crores, and we are targeting to produce orthodox black tea and green tea, which will be organic in nature. So there are other potential areas for tea plantation. In case of rubber, we are having around 4,200 acres under plantation at present, and our annual production is around 1,200 metric tons. Second, next slide. And floriculture, as we all know, the state is endowed with a salubrious climate and like vast expanse, especially in the hill areas, are covered with wildflowers, and nobody is tapping the commercial potential of this wildflowers. So the state government is in the process of constituting a task force for harnessing the floriculture potential in coordination with ICAR. For food processing, state government is establishing a mega food park with assistance of the central government with project cost of 81.37 crores. As regards the mineral-based industries, the estimated limestone deposit in the state is 61 million tons, and the chromite deposit stands at 11.96 million tons. So there is scope for establishment of cement industry as well as chromite extraction units. And cosmetics and pharmaceutical industries is one area which has got great potential, but which is very, very underestimated. We don't have any pharmaceutical company which is manufacturing drugs in Manipur. But on the other hand, the state is endowed with rich medicinal and aromatic plants, from lemongrass to bogostemon to Indian wormwood to fresh bamboo leaves to lotus leaves. So there is scope, and we have a ready market in the Asian region. As we all know, the Indian generic drugs are in high demand in the Asian region. So Manipur can be the next hub for manufacturing of pharmaceutical products. With respect to the toys, the potential is again unexplored. But the state, as with other parts of the country, like is flooded with toys made in China and other Asian countries. So there is we can presume that, safely presume that there is a ready market for toys, and development of toy industry is a possibility. And under the Manipur Industrial and Investment Policy, we give certain subsidies and incentives to the entrepreneurs, like the capital investment subsidy, comprehensive insurance subsidy, power subsidy, and transport subsidy, etc. And recently, the government of Manipur has also promulgated the Manipur Public Services Delivery Guarantee Ordinance 2020 and the Manipur Industrial Single Window Clearance Ordinance 2020 to ease the business environment under the ease of doing business initiative of the central government. So lastly, I would just like to highlight some of the major impediments in the India-Myanmar border trade at Moreh. The Exim Financial Services at the designated banks, especially on the Myanmar side, they are not fully operational. So the traders, the entrepreneurs, they prefer informal trade rather than the formal trade. And we require a forex cell at RBI Imphal. The ICP at Moreh still does not have e-visa facility. All these issues have been raised in the Board of Trade meeting chaired by the Honorable CIM of India. And we also need to encourage the government of Myanmar to improve their trading facilities as well as the banking infrastructure, especially in the areas bordering Manipur. Because the feedback that we are getting from the entrepreneurs is that the banking infrastructure on the side of Myanmar bordering Manipur is very, very low. It is very, very less. So when we talk about formal trade, it has to be done with banks. But on the other hand, if the Myanmar side, the banking facilities are not developed, then formal trade will always be subdued by informal trade. The land customs stations at Moreh lacks the electronic data interchange. This we have already raised with the central government. And there is also lack of transit permit for goods imported from third countries via Myanmar. And we also need to introduce the travel card for persons residing within 16 kilometers of the international boundary. As regards the border huts, I think the Ministry of External Affairs and MHA, I think they have already approved 2 border huts in Manipur, and we are also on the process for proposing some more border huts along the districts bordering with Myanmar. So with this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all for giving me this opportunity.
Loramamji, thank you so much. I mean, so much information in so little time. I am really impressed. I mean, you have summed up the whole state, the problems, the advantages in such a short time. I would like to point out a few things from out of your presentation. One is that you mentioned regarding the forex and the presence of banks and how RBI Imphal should be taking up a bigger role. I would like to point out something similar. There are a lot of issues between India and Iran trade. And Indian Chamber of International Business has been working very closely with certain banks like IDBI Bank, who are designated for India-Iran trade. They have their Iran desks, which facilitate. We are solving a lot of issues when it comes to bilateral trade between these two countries. So let me also take up personally this issue between India and Myanmar, and we will write to the right authorities, and we will try to open up forex branches, and forex issues we should be able to facilitate that. So we'll be happy to do that. Regarding the transit permits, I think it is a need of the hour when the informal trade is so high, and I think these are the relaxations that we should try to give to these businesses so that the informal shifts to the formal trade. Thank you so much. We shall be troubling you more often, and we will try to push people with businesses, the small and medium companies from this part of the country to that part of the country, and we will ensure that we set up small units that might help the state and the border trade between Myanmar and India. Thank you so much once again, sir. With this, I would like to highlight one important fact that, today's session, we are having so much interest from a lot of chambers that approached us for being partnering for this event. I would like to mention our primary partner is definitely India-Myanmar Chamber of Commerce. We have the Global India Business Forum. We have the World Sikh Chamber of Commerce. We have the MSME Forum of India. We have IMA MSME. We even have Telangana Chamber of Commerce. We have the India Business Group. And not only this, I'm very happy to say that the interest in this trade between Northeast and Myanmar and Bhutan has been taken by a Russian Chamber of Commerce also. They were happy to partner with us. Ikratina has joined us from Republic of Karelia in Russia. So this shows the interest that this part of the world has in the other parts. And, we should be able to facilitate this trade, how we can assist second, third, fourth countries to utilize India as a gateway to ASEAN, and how we can assist them too. Sunil Sethji, I would like to come back to you on this with a very small question. What is your one point suggestion for any small and medium business that would like to set up in Myanmar or enter the Myanmar market for export of Indian goods? You're on mute, Sunilji.
So I think my simple suggestion will be that, you have to come to Myanmar, visit Myanmar, feel the country, build local contacts, and start in a small way. Because, eating the pudding is important. Just sitting in India and hoping that you'll be able to do business on emails, etc., doesn't happen. It's a very relationship-driven market here in Myanmar, and people like face-to-face meetings and getting to know each other. So my single point, this thing would be that people who are interested should now, there are so many flights. I mean, before this problem happened, we had Indigo, which was coming in very regularly. I'm hopeful that once COVID situation comes under control, it will start. So, it's just a 1.5 hour flight from Calcutta to Yangon. Please visit. The chamber is there to provide you all the support. But coming here, looking for yourself, meeting the local partners, I think is extremely important. And the second thing is, in a frontier market like Myanmar, my other request to my friends from India would be take a slightly medium-term perspective. It's not that you come here and you feel within 1 year you'll start making money. It doesn't happen. So you must have some holding power, so to speak. Be here for a while, get to know people, build contacts, get to know the market, and in the long run, certainly it's a high potential market.
Thank you, Sunilji. I think that is the most valuable suggestion. And, even when it comes to the Northeast, people like us sitting in Mumbai and Delhi have always been like, oh, this is there in Northeast. But once you go there, you realize that it's a different ballgame altogether. And there are definitely opportunities, but you have to be there to do it. So I really agree with you on that part. Thank you, Sunilji. Priyanshuji, one question for you. You are in the FMCG trade. Do you feel that India is a huge, I would say, super house of brands when it comes to FMCG products, right from the local ones to the national ones and even international ones today? Do you really think that we can enter the Indian brands, or the Indian small and medium companies can enter Myanmar for exports?
Yeah, definitely. I think Myanmar not only gives you opportunity for export, also for there's a huge consumption capability in Myanmar. As we were discussing, it has 55 million population. Middle income group is increasing. SEC CED is growing very fast. So there is huge opportunity for consumable products in Myanmar. And I think also, in case if somebody wants to build it up and can export from Myanmar.
Charo.
Thank you, Priyanshuji. With this, I'd like to introduce Shri Tinku Gupta ji. Tinku ji, are you around? She's the Vice President East India, based out of Calcutta. And,
yes.
If you can just highlight a little bit on what the initiatives of ICIB have been to the entire Northeast region, and how we can enhance with the other neighboring countries too.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I've been listening to all the eminent speakers here, and what I personally believe or think is that, ICIB doesn't only mean Indian Chamber of International Business. It is I see and I begin. So we began actually in the East, and it is our endeavor that we will develop this part of India, not only for the rest of India, but also for the rest of the
He
world.
will take us to Bangladesh.
And the focus area that we have been working more on an impact based as the things that I can take away from this this webinar is that we need to have a very impactful existence. It's not only discussing the sectors and about the challenges or the scope, but we need to work on it as well. I would greatly resound on this that we are very much here to be part of a task force, and we ourselves have also taken upon ourselves that we will partner with every association to make this part of India a very vibrant one. And I'm very happy to report to everyone that we are gradually, I started off only in Calcutta, but then now we have a greater presence in Nagaland. We have a good presence in Manipur and Sikkim, and all the places gradually are coming into under our wings. And that helps us to, work more effectively at the ground level. And in this regard also, we are having a very eminent team in at the central level, no doubt, but also at the regional level. We have Professor Pradyut Banerjee, who is our principal advisor for the East Zone. And I would request him to just kindly share a few words that whatever we have discussed, how we are going up forward with it. And our stress is definitely on hand-holding the small and medium entrepreneurs on the skill development, and also bringing bigger companies to this part of India, because infrastructure and skill goes hand in hand. So with this, I would request Mr. Banerjee to just put in a few words.
Tinkuji, before this, I would like to thank our eminent panel that had joined us today for a lovely panel discussion and all the experienced views that they've shared with us. Shri Sunil Sethji, thank you so much. It's been our pleasure to have you with us. Priyanshu Goyalji, your experience is totally invaluable. Vinod Parkarji, and definitely Director Industries, Shri Bekamji. I would really like to thank you for reviewing time today and being with us and sharing your experience and your views about India, Northeast, and Myanmar. Thank you so much once again. Tinkuji, back to you.
Thank you. So I would request Professor Banerjee to just put in a few words.
Coming? How it comes?
Hello. I think.
Hello. Can
yes,
you hear
sir.
me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay. Let me start. Thank you, Tinku, for introducing me. And I actually yesterday night around 11:30, you informed me that there will be a seminar, and I got connected, and you told me I have to speak about 10 minutes for that. So let me begin a very sketchy picture, addressing to respected Sri Padmanabhan Acharya Sahab, the governor of Manipur, Tripura, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, and Mr. Manpreet Singh, President of Indian Chamber of International Business, and my dear friends, regional heads, and elite members and distinguished guests. Just now, I was just remembering a coincidence itself. Just 3 days back, or 3-4 days back, I was having a discussion with Mr. Tathagata Rai, who was also the governor of Tripura and Meghalaya. So I was asking that I'm thinking to work something in the Northeast region. So how is it? So he was very much interested to give me some feedback, what are the things to be done and all these sort of things. Okay, that we'll share later. But now I wish to say the good afternoon to everybody and Happy New Year 2021 to everybody after the pandemic-ridden, riddled 2020 to look forward for a much better time in every front of life, peace, prosperity, opportunity in doing business, internationally and nationally. I would like to introduce in my maiden speech as a multi-business professional during the last 50 years and initially with some private big organization like Sridham Group of Industries in J Engineering Works and also in a Bengal local group of the Shen Raleigh Limited who has got a machine tool company. And then I went back to government and in the central government I work with Mr. P.C. Alexander, who was my boss as the development commissioner in small scale industries. Then it was not MSME, then it was SSI. And that time I worked with the United Nations project and also, I don't know how the photograph will come. It is not going big. But anyway, you can hear me, na? Hello? Hello?
We can hear you,
hello?
Sir.
Okay, okay. So actually that time I worked sometimes in the United Nations Development Program in electrical engineering project and microelectronics. And then I was in the Indo-Danish project for making so many small scale industries in Bihar, Bangladesh, Bihar, Odisha, and what do you call that? Jharkhand. That one is not Jharkhand. Bihar, Odisha, and Bengal. So I was having in the industrial areas development in Jamshedpur, Tata, and also in the Badanagar industrial area, and also with the help of the Small Industry Service Institute. Lot of development has been done in the late 70s. Afterwards, I went to the German MNC, Siemens Limited, and there I had...
Sorry to cut you, sir. We are running a little out of time. We still have 2 speakers to go.
Okay, then it is not
If you can conclude, please.
I will conclude immediately because the no time frame was till 10 minutes is told. It is only 5 minutes past. Anyway, okay. In Bhutan and Myanmar, I have to tell one thing. I have got a strong relationship with Bangladesh on business front because I was with the Grameen Phone there. And in Bhutan also, with the Bhutan Telecom, I have worked long with making the tenders and making the business in the high-end products, that is the electronic digital switching system, and also in Nepal with the Nepal Telecom. And similarly, Myanmar, I was not touched much because I went to the Chattogram side and in the Thailand side on the bottom of the Myanmar. So definitely there's enough scope. We can do a lot of things. I've got a lot of examples to speak about, but that should require hours together to talk about which industries can be focused. And from the Planning Commission, the Niti Aayog has made 124 pages, actually the total projections, what could be done in the Northeast region. But because a lot of time, so I can conclude myself now here. And in piecemeal, if it is I'm allowed to make some workshop on this subject, I'm ready to do one full day workshop on the Northeast region, what could be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Banerjee. We are also happy that we are having our state convener from Nagaland, Dr. Chuba, who's also very much here. Dr. Chuba, can I have a few words from you also?
Can I share one more point? The Nagaland, I can tell you, I have worked for the MIT distance learning, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They have got a huge distance learning program, and the equal subjects are being taught from a global university from Nagaland. This is, nobody knows, but they teach the same language on same subjects online as it is being done from the MIT. This I wanted to tell you.
Right. Thank you so much. Dr. Chuba, are you on the line?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible and visible.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, and dear panel member, and especially thanks to Manpreet ji who organized this panel. I'm very happy that this kind of time to time if you organize, so we are also able to learn many things which we never know before it about the other neighboring country. So here in Nagaland, especially Nagaland was dominated nearly 70 years by the insurgency. So this insurgency problem was the one of the major causes where people wants to develop, but due to fear psychosis, people are not able to come forward. Secondly, the peoples were not be properly educated, especially in the industrial sector, especially trading and especially import-export business, especially tradings. So that things are lagging behind, but slowly it is a catching up, and still we are having lots of potential about this agro-based industry. In agro-based industry, we are encouraging each and every one of us, and especially we are also emphasize this self-help group. Self-help group doesn't require much more capital. With the collection of among the friends, among the members, they can come up, but this require a kind of potential area of marketing, because marketing is one of the greatest problem in Nagaland, because people can produce, but where to sell? These channels are a little bit lacking. But anyway, these things are coming up. It will take little time to catch up. But about the ICIB, it's coming up slowly. People understood. People started joining and believe that it will be come up, and it will be a platform to educate the peoples, and it will be a good platform for the channelize with the connection of international market. That much I can give you to this assurance. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chuba. Over to you, Manpreet ji.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the patience that people are having today. And we have overshot the time. We'll be overshooting by another 15 or 20 minutes more. So thank you so much for your patience, everyone. I would now like to invite one of our partners, a few seconds from Russia, who has joined us. Ms. Sekretina, are you available?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hello, welcome to our forum today. Please feel free, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to join this meeting. So from behalf of our president, Mr. Alexander Pankratov, from my own as head of external relations, and my colleague and our member, Svetlana, she is our India expert actually for today. We are very glad that we joined such an important and fruitful event, and we are looking forward for the opportunities for the collaborations in future. Thank you very much. We are open for the connection.
Thank you so much, Ekaterina. Thank you very much for being with us today. I would now like to hand over to our next and final speaker of the day, Shri Chintan Oza, who will be talking about the future of jobs. You know, what about entrepreneurship, about jobs, and how best we can look at creating the Northeast region, Myanmar, Bhutan, all these regions, how you can develop these regions from within. So, Chintanji, welcome.
So much. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone from whichever time zone you are in, and it's indeed my pleasure to be with the forum. I hope I'm audible. I'll just start my.
Your volume's a little less, if you can increase.
Okay. So I'll just adjust my microphone, and here we go. I'm just sharing my screen. I hope my screen is visible to all.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So let's get started. Today I'm going to talk about future of work, and let's get going. So
Chintanji, one request, if you can just speed up a little bit. I know it is a little pressure on you, but just a request.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to rush, and you'd enjoy this ride. So this is a brief introduction of myself. I consult various companies and advise them on the scale up of technologies. So this is going to be the agenda for the day. What has been disrupted? What are the new jobs on the horizon? So why and how it is immaterial to be at certain location, and we can work from anywhere and collaborate from anywhere. So this is going to be the theme of my talk. So we were not prepared when the COVID struck us, and it has definitely disrupted our life, and now we are entering a phase where our vaccines are getting ready. So in this meanwhile, what has been disrupted? Our work, the worker and workplace, all three have been disrupted to a greater extent. We are living in a world where technology is taking center stage everywhere now. COVID-19 has definitely accelerated the digital transformation, and we are living in a world where engineers only were primarily responsible for using technology as a tool. But now, post-COVID, the scene has changed. Doctors are mastering coding. Finance professionals are using artificial intelligence to get insights on their financial systems. Management professionals are using data science to get insights and then get a hold on their data. These are the kind of job titles which never existed just a decade ago. If you look at iOS or Android developer, or data scientists, or UI UX designers, big data architects. On the other side, maybe Beachbody coach, digital marketing manager, Uber or Airbnb partner. So these were the new jobs which has come up in last decade. One of the report by Dell Technology says 85% of the job that will exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet, and we are in 2021. One of the research report by an Australian research firm says that 65% of the kids in preschool today would be employed in a job that does not exist today. So this is going to be the future of jobs. Which are the new jobs are on the horizon? So let us have a quick rush on these jobs. Next Generation Connect. We are about to get 5G network in second half of 2021. So a job related to 5G, solution architects, solution designers, sales guys, marketing people, people who are working on multiple technologies, people who are using 5G and AI, people who are using 5G and blockchain would be in demand. People who are using 5G in different solution would be in demand. Data strategies. Until now, we had data scientists who were working and crunching the data, but now, because all these enterprises are sitting on a big mountain of data, they need to strategize what kind of data needs to be preserved and what kind of data needs to be archived. So on a larger scale, new jobs as for data strategies would be on the rise. A new job of edge compute architects. With rise of 5G and artificial intelligence, we will have new use cases in Industry 4.0, smart cities, supply chain, wherein edge compute would be used extensively. So we would need edge compute architects. Cybersecurity is using artificial intelligence to a greater extent, and that is where deception agents would be deployed to mitigate the cybersecurity attack before the attack starts. Quantum compute solution specialist. Day before yesterday, our Niti Aayog has started a quantum compute lab with cooperation of AWS. So our Indian researchers are getting access to quantum compute using a cloud compute scenario. So that is where quantum compute is being made available as a service to all the startups. So that is where quantum compute solution specialists would be on the rise. Virtual reality and augmented reality is being used in various industries for training purpose, be it armed forces, be it students, be it medical professionals, be it finance professionals. So simulation specialists would be in demand. Crypto evangelists, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, bitcoins, all other technologies would definitely use various forms of crypto, and that is where crypto evangelists would be in demand. V-commerce managers, sharing economy would be the thing which would be in demand. We all would be pooling our resources and our assets and sharing them. So V-commerce solution designers, rapid transit planners. There is a huge disruption going on in the last mile travel as well as the inter and intra-city transport. So this is where rapid transport planners, transit planners would be in demand. Drone fleet managers, a lot of drone use cases are being deployed in next 1000 days across all sectors. Robo fleet supervisors, many industries would have a fleet of robots. Now they would deploy another robots to supervise the next level robots, or we would have humans would be supervising a fleet of robots. Self-assembling robo swarms. So these are the new use cases which are likely to get in place beyond 2025. Autonomous mobility, we are just 1000 days away then riding a autonomous vehicle. Earlier we started our autonomous journey in air, wherein autonomous pilot mode was there, and pilots used to put the flight on autonomous mode. Then came the autonomous mode on the roads, and we are likely to have autonomous car. And now in the next level, we are going ahead and then getting into autonomous shipping, wherein no human would be driving a ship. And that is where we are planning to de-risk the human lives as far as the sea logistic is concerned. Teleportations, because of rise of 5G and 6G, teleportation and certain use cases of events would be in place. Space explorations, space industry is booming. A lot of private government of India has opened scope for all private players to venture into sports in space industry. So that is where space exploration would be a big in a big demand. 3D, 4D, and 5D printers are getting into mainstream. All of us are having our tooth implants readily available using a 3D printer in these days. Experiential learning, our classrooms are getting transformed with use of new education methods. Digital classrooms are being upgraded to next generation classroom. Human augmentation, implants of chips and identities using various technologies would be there, and so such as the new professionals would be in demand. Energy storage experts, now is the time that our renewable energy resources are getting cheaper. The energy generated using renewable energy has become much cheaper than the traditional energy, and that is where the time is to store this energy and use it as and when the time demands. So we would need energy storage experts. Atmospheric water harvesters, so this is something which would get deployed in all the hilly terrains, because getting water to these remote locations is very difficult, and that is where atmospheric water harvesters would be in a very big demand. Urban agriculturist, so because we are getting our urban landscape redesigned, there would be a lot of urban food and urban agriculturists would be in demand, who would be growing the vegetable and food well within their residential or business areas. Tree technologies, there would be a new industry to mix various technologies and grow flowers or plants or fruits with a new flavor, new combination, and new colors. Nutrition engineers, 2021, we are soon going to have synthetic meat on our menu. Extinction revivalist, so lot many people are getting into deep sea exploration and trying to preserve the environment and nature in that arena. While people are getting into the bottom of the sea, people are also trying to manage the garbage which has been floating on our oceans, and that is where bioremediation experts who are trying to recycle this waste would be in demand in future. CRISPR is a technique where we can alter our gene and then redesign our body. So people and professionals who would be knowing CRISPR techniques would be in demand. Seniors living specialists, there would be a huge population which would be above 55 in the time to come. So there would be a new profession wherein people would be, certain set of people would be required to take care of these senior citizens. Digital inheritance managers, now that we all have various digital assets, we all will need to set up our digital inheritance, and that is where a new profession titled as digital inheritance manager would be in place. So which are the factors which are driving this future of work? Technology, globalization, and various social factors. Because of interest of time, I'll just skip this. These are the kind of new jobs which are in demand. You can browse a report by LinkedIn which says that top 15 job in demand in 2021. These are the top 10 skills I have shared with you. So definitely, apart from technology, creative and analytical thinking, learning strategies, or generating analytics, originality, these are the kind of skills which would be in demand. And these are the things which would help us survive as far as the rise of machines and robots are concerned. These are the kind of jobs which would disappear by 2020-30. We won't have any librarian, we won't have any person, human working in textile industry. We won't have any travel agent. Gone are the days when we used to call someone to book our tickets. There wouldn't be any draftsman which would be required. In time to come, we may not have any labor in agricultural sector as well. We don't need any manual data loggers or even a document storekeepers. But we still have time wherein we can gear up and refresh our career and survive longer. So these are the 10 things which I have listed down. If you follow these things, you can prevent yourself from being redundant in this wave of disruption. So forward path, we all need to be embracing agility. So agility is adaptability. We need to have growth mindset. We need to develop and build inquisitiveness. We need to be leveraging on various technology, various platforms, various learning mechanisms. We should be innovative. We should be thinking new problems, new solutions for the new problems. We should be transformative. We must have a upgrade path for ourselves, and we must focus on why things are happening and what are the solutions. So we all need to redimension our career, we need to redimension our life, we need to redimension our business. And that is where I always say early adopters always win. Let us connect, collaborate, and coexist. I have shared my LinkedIn and Twitter handles. Look forward to connecting and engaging with you all. Thank you so much. Back to you, Manpreet ji.
Thank you so much. A lot of people must be wondering why this presentation, why this topic. The reason is the Northeast is a difficult terrain, but these technologies, the future that is coming is independent of infrastructure, physical infrastructure, but it is dependent on bandwidth, it is dependent on people, how you can enhance. So we can develop this entire ecosystem within the Northeast region itself. We have 8 lovely states which have certain issues, but being where you are, if you utilize these, you open up your vision, you can develop from within and you can grow much faster. You look at Singapore, it's a city country, and we have 8 lovely states with amazing beauty. Imagine being able to sit inside your office, look at the waterfall outside, and you're coding for the rest of the world. Coding is just an example, but that's the point. So this is something that I wanted to. Thank you, Chintan. Thank you so much for being here. We are already overshot the time by quite some time. I would like to really thank all our partner chambers that have been there with us today. I see the IBG group. Is there anybody would like to just give you a minute if you can like to talk? Anybody from IBG, please?
Hi, I'm there from IBG, Harish Tolani.
Harish, how are you? If you can just highlight a minute on IBG.
It's a very great to hear all this, and it's a good experience. And definitely, I think I will look at certain sectors and get back to the people concerned. Thank you.
Yeah, hello. Manpreet, hi, Ajay Kant Ruya here. I am also from IBG.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I head the real estate vertical of IBG Group, and we would like to promote the property business between Myanmar and India so that each other can look at property acquisitions or leasing or rentals or whatever to facilitate business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mantri.
so much. With this, we come to end of today's session. I would like to really thank our chief guest today, Padmanabh Acharya ji. It was great to have you with us and give us so much time today and answer everybody's questions. I assure all of those present today that he's very approachable. Anything related to any of the northeastern states, Myanmar, Bhutan, or the neighboring countries, we, Indian Chamber of International Business and ICIB would be happy to help. I would now like to hand over the baton for today's closure and the end of the session to Global India Business Forum for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Manpreet. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. We at Global India Business Forum would like to thank Indian Chamber of International Business for giving us the honor of being part of such prestigious and informative webinar, which has some most respected personalities from the business world and government too. Being a part of Business India, Global India Business Forum, one of the fastest growing network forum in the world that help us connect different business sectors and countries across the world. I understand and encourage the need of create business opportunity that will result in creating mutual benefits for both the parties involved. On behalf of GIBF, I would like to thank each and every esteemed panelist who took their prestigious time and gave their insight and point of view about the different issues raised during the webinar. This webinar would not have been a success with your support. And we hope that more such informative webinars are conducted in future as well to boost our economy and successfully achieve the nation's dream to be the industrial and financial hub of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. If Acharya ji, aap agar hai, to I would love to have the closing remarks from you as an inspiration to all of us.
मैं हूँ.
हाँ जी सर, आपकी तरफ से हमारे लिए एक inspiration please.
It was really a very fruitful and informative discussion. I was restricting myself to the Northeast development. In fact, Modi ji's very clear instructions are first develop Northeast of India, and then go to the neighboring countries. So strengthen India, then only we can strengthen our trade with the international borders. So some wonderful information has become. Now action is required. Very good participants, and thank you all of you for participating and take out time. Thank you, Manpreet ji. Again, you have to do such things, follow up also. Whatever from my side you require, I am prepared to help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I thank all of you attendees for being with us today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.